one and all. I am S Ramaswami, Assistant Professor from the Department of Naval Architecture and Offshore Engineering. Today we will discuss about a very important topic, that ship construction and naval architecture, that is framing system. What is a framing system? The framing system in a ship refers to the structure, framework that provide strength, support and shape to the hull of the ship. It only gives the shape and support. It consists of a network of transverse and longitudinal members such as frames, beams, floors, girders, etc., which are essential for maintaining the integrity of the ship structure under various sea conditions. This framing system also distributes loads and resists stresses from waves, cargo and propulsion. There are different types of framing system used in shipbuilding, like transverse framing system, longitudinal framing system and combined framing system. The choice of framing system depends upon the size, function and operational requirement of the ship. Basically, there are three types of framing system. Where does this framing system actually exist and which part of the ship structure it mainly supports? It supports the bottom and side shell, because the bottom and side shell are the two main important structure of the ship, which is directly supported to the internal and external load acting on the ship structure. The internal load, in the sense your distribution of load, your weight of the ship and weight of the cargo, etc. The external load, in the sense the waves, wind, underwater current. So the side shell and bottom shell and deck plating, these altogether comprises the ship's hull, which has to be given proper support, that is given by this framing system. There are three different types of framing system as we have discussed: transverse framing system, longitudinal framing system and combined or mixed framing system. Now, when you look at this transverse framing system, it is consists of stiffeners, either bulk plate or deep flange web frames attached by brackets to deck beam and floor structure. Scantlings of frame depends upon depth and end connection. Particularly, locations like end of the hatches require frames of increased scantling. Engine room requires deep frames. This transverse frame generally used in a ship whose length is below 120 meters. As per the LRS, Lawyers Registration of Shipping, the rule for framing system is that they have the criteria on length of the ship. If the length of the ship is 120 meters and less, they recommend the transverse framing system. Based upon this, all the classification society, they follow these rules and regulations. So ships whose length is less than 120 meters go for transverse framing system. This transverse framing system gives more strength to the transverse bending moment of the ship. Because when the ship is less than 120 meter, the importance is given to the transverse bending. So the transverse bending is very important in case of small ships which carries cargo in a limited size. This transverse framing system is comprises of your deck beam bracket, beam knees, then it is connected to the vertical frames, then it is connected to the tank side bracket, then it is connected to the floor plate. Like that, it forms a chain connection between the deck and the bottom structure, so that whatever the load the ship experiences, wherever the load is acting, it is finally transferred to the bottom shell plating through these structural members, that is deck beam, beam knee, vertical frames which is fitted on the ship side, and then tack side bracket, finally to the floor plate. So transverse framing system contributes much importance in the ships of length 120 meter and below. Next comes your longitudinal framing system. Your longitudinal framing system is meant for the ships whose length is more than 120 meter and above. Longitudinal framing system cater for the longitudinal bending moment of the ship. Once the length of the ship is increasing, the importance should be given to the longitudinal frames, longitudinal bending or longitudinal stress. Since the length increases, the longitudinal stress also will be more. Ships of VLCCs, ULCCs, container ship, tanker nowadays are using the longitudinal framing system. This longitudinal framing system uses offset bulk plates with increased cantlings towards the lower shell. Transverse webs are used to support the longitudinal, commonly used in tankers. Container ship. Okay. Now, your combined framing system. The combined framing system is also called as mixed framing system. Why it is called as mixed framing system? In combined framing system, we use longitudinal frames as well as transverse frames. Longitudinals are retained under the deck structure and in the bottom to provide longitudinal strength. Transverse frames are fitted on the ship side to provide the side strength. Plate floors and transverse beams are fitted at intervals to provide transverse strength. The example for combined framing system, you can go for harbor utility crafts like tugboat, dredgers, cable laying vessel, light ships, ship's crane, which is used for very essential and important tasks. These harbor utility crafts are there to support the operation of the ship in the harbor and also to maintain the harbor facilities to the ship. The tugboats, which is used to help the ship for berthing and unberthing, and your light ships, which provide a portable lighthouse to the ships when main lighthouse is under maintenance, and the lifting cranes, floating cranes, which is used in salvage operation. So likewise, we have the framing system classified into three categories. That is the transverse framing system, longitudinal framing system, and combined framing system, which is used in ships under the different categories. Thank you very much.